Hi, Pastor Nathan Decker with your hashtag Better Together devotion for today. Make sure to click like, share, subscribe, and all those buttons below so you can share with others as well as not miss one of these devotions. So this week I've been talking about what made United Methodism work. The early United Methodist Church, the early Methodist revival that John Wesley kind of started in England and really caught fire in the United States and even across the world. And some of the things that we take for granted was structure. John Wesley was not a bishop. And when the United States suddenly became the United States, that is, that we had that whole little Revolutionary War thing, and we decided we were not going to be British subjects anymore, he had to think about how to go about organizing the church. And he was a very practical minded person. He believed in flexible structure. He also believed in bending the rules. So he had lay speakers and women preachers, all from the very beginning, reaching out. He encouraged those who were enslaved to gather around and have someone who would speak to them and share the gospel with them. John Wesley believed in a flexible, practical, accountable structure. Now, we in the United Methodist Church today, I'll be completely honest, have probably really weighed heavy on the accountable side. And now we're in a whole debacle because the book of discipline is treated more like a book of punishment rather than a book of guidelines and guideposts to help us be flexible and accountable and help us grow the church. We're called to be a church that is flexible in our structure. We're called to be a church that's accountable in our structure. So we should have the ability to empower people to go and do things. John Wesley did this in what he called extraordinary ordination. Not being a bishop, he wasn't allowed to ordain somebody, but he did ordain Thomas Coke and sent him to what was then the birthing of the United States. Thomas Coke, met with a guy named Francis Asbury. Now, Francis Asbury was extremely well-traveled. He rode over 2,000 miles on horseback every single year. That's a lot of miles on the keister. And it was said of Francis Asbury that people knew George Washington by name, but people knew Francis Asbury by face, because he traveled so much all over the colonies, as far north as Maine, as far south as Georgia, and as far west as Missouri. He'd been everywhere. And a part of that was when Thomas Coke showed up, he recognized immediately, this is the guy who really knows what's going on. And so together they partnered and they created a shared ministry, a flexible ministry of sending out circuit riders. Now, here's the deal. If you look at a map of the United States and you look at a map of denominations, you'll find that Anglicans, or the Episcopalians, are a lot on the coast of the East Coast and down in Texas. They follow the coast because that's as far in as they got, because a lot of times their structure was prohibitive. They weren't able to go inland because they didn't have enough ministers. They weren't capable of ordaining and sending out circuit riders. Methodists, Presbyterians, Baptists, we didn't have that problem. We were flexible enough to ordain and empower and send folks on horseback into the wilds, following those caravans, following folks like Daniel Boone and Davy Crockett, wherever they were going. As settlers settled west, we went with them. And that's why the Methodist revival kept spreading across the United States. We need a flexible structure, one that is bendable, moldable, contextual, accountable. And by doing so, we'll be better together. Amen.